Track 1. Speaker 1.
I don't care what they say about checks and balances. Harvard is part of a totally elitist, sexist, and racist system. If you're not a white American male from a rich family with political connections, you can forget it. You'll never get into Harvard.
Speaker 2. As Mr. Fitzsimmons says, it makes sense to put the best students with the best faculty. Every country needs an intellectual elite to work in its government and key industries. Speaker 3.
$40,000 a year. It's scandalous. Education should be accessible to everyone, and the government should pay for it. And it's completely absurd paying all those people just to recruit the best students.
Speaker 4.
I admire Harvard for practicing what they preach. It's high time more schools and universities were run as businesses. They'd be more efficient and save taxpayers money.
Track 2. Speaker 1. I'm thinking of leaving, actually. I've worked in China, Argentina, and Alaska, and now they want me to go to South Africa for 2 years. But even if I resign, they'll make me work at least another 3 months. I'm just sick of being moved around all the time. Speaker 2.
When the company was modernized, they told me to stay at home for a week or two while they found me a different job. But they never did. So in the end, they had to let me go, as they say. Replaced by a machine. Well, actually, I'm grateful. It was probably the best thing that could have happened to me.
Speaker 3.
I've just been sent home for a week because I refused to wear a safety helmet. They're too hot and uncomfortable. They keep harassing me. I think they'd like to fire me, actually.
Speaker 4.
I was on the road for 30 years as a sales rep. Then I was lucky enough to get the job as sales manager here 4 years ago. I've just been made Director of Customer Satisfaction. Or as the boys in sales say, they've kicked me upstairs. Well, at my age, I'm over the moon.
Speaker 5.
I'm based in London for the moment. Actually, right now I'm doing audits in Paris for our French subsidiary, but it's just for 3 months. After that, they've asked me to move to the Vancouver office. It's a fantastic opportunity.
Speaker 6.
Well, I'm not actually working at the moment. I'm an actor and I finished a movie a couple of months ago. I'm thinking about taking a year off to write a book.
Track 3.
Hi, my name's Bob. A few years ago, I started up an electronics company which has been very successful. So successful, in fact, that I had to hire a CEO to give me time for my creative work. I brought in Jack, a manager from a completely different business, a soda manufacturer, in fact. I thought he would be the right man to help my company grow, but now I know I made a big mistake. Recently, we disagreed about strategy. Believe it or not, the board decided he was right and I was wrong and stripped me of my duties. Of course, I resigned. Well, what would you have done? I still hold my shares in the company, but I think I'm going to sell them. I don't know what I'll do next. Maybe I'll invest the money from the shares and retire somewhere cheap and sunny. Or I suppose I could start over and build a new company. Or join a competitor. What do you think I should do?
Track 4.
Hello, I'm Lucy, and my problem is that I've never really known what sort of career to choose. I studied languages at university, which was great, but it doesn't really qualify you to do anything. After graduating, I worked as a researcher for a charity. Then I went abroad and worked as an English teacher for a while. Now I'm a secretary, or should I say I was a secretary, because I've just been fired for writing stories at work. I love writing, but it's not easy to make a living from it. I suppose I'd need to go back to school and do a creative writing course. Perhaps I could work part-time, waitressing or something. Or should I just look for another secretarial job? Or go back to being a researcher? Or a teacher, maybe? At least that's more creative. What do you think?
Track 5.
Hi, I'm Mel. I've wanted to run my own business for as long as I can remember. When I was in high school, a friend and I designed a product which we managed to sell to local government departments. But my parents were really keen on sending me to business school, so now I'm in my 3rd year at a really prestigious, expensive school. The thing is, my friend and I have a fantastic opportunity to start our own business. We have a new product, and a big company is really interested in buying it. But to develop our idea, I'll have to drop out of school, and I know my parents will be really upset. What do you think I should do?
Track 6.
Fraser Orwell!
Oh, hi.
Oh my God! Fancy meeting you here. You look great. Do you still go running?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I usually run 2 or 3 times a week. I'm sorry. I'm afraid I always forget people's names.
It's Jess. Jess Tomey.
Oh, Jess, of course. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. People often don't recognise me. Too many business lunches, so I always tend to put on weight.
No, you look wonderful, as always.
Oh, thank you, Fraser. So, what are you doing these days?
Well, actually, at the moment, I'm not doing very much. Sort of job hunting, you know.
Oh, I see. Well, I hope you find something soon. But what did you do after graduation?
Well, you probably remember that I dropped out in my final year, so I didn't actually graduate. But I worked for ITC in Manchester for 20 years.
Oh, did you?
Yes, until they were taken over by Morgan Herschel about a year ago. 20 years of loyal service. But when Morgan Herschel came along, I was made redundant without so much as a word of thanks.
Oh, how awful for you.
Yes, well, you know, that's life, isn't it? But, actually, I've just got back from Nepal.
Nepal? Wow!
Yeah, been working on a book.
Oh, that's terrific, Fraser. So, when can I buy it?
Well, I haven't finished it yet, but hopefully it'll be published next year. I promise I'll send you a copy. But anyway, that's enough about me. What have you done since you left Franklin? Did you get that job you wanted in finance?
Yes, I did. I worked in several firms, actually. I became a specialist in downsizing, cutting costs, streamlining, restructuring, you know.
I see. A bit like Morgan Herschel.
Well, yes, a bit.
So, where are you working now?
Oh, I'm currently managing one of our subsidiaries, up north.
Oh, yeah. Anywhere near Manchester?
Yes, but I'm going to move down to London soon.
Oh, really?
Yes, I've just had some rather good news.
Uh-huh.
Well, if all goes well, I'm taking over as Group CEO next year.
Wow, congratulations! Which company?
Oh, you probably wouldn't be interested.
Oh, come on, Jess, we go back a long way. No secrets between us, eh?
Well, it's Morgan Herschel, actually.
Track 7. 1.
Can you tell us why you chose your school or university?
2.
Could you explain why you are single or married?
3.
I'd like to know the reasons why you are or are not a member of a union.
4.
Would you mind telling us why you do or don't have children?
5.
Do you smoke or drink? Why or why not?
6.
What exactly made you choose to apply to this company?
7.
I'd be interested to know why you are or are not a vegetarian.
8.
Can you tell me where you want to live and work, and why?
Track 8.
So, Ruth, could you tell me what motivated you to study business and why you chose to attend the Franklin School of Business?
Yes, well, I suppose mainly because my boyfriend was going to Franklin and I liked economics at school. I thought about some of the better-known business schools, but, you know, they're too expensive anyway. I nearly chose French, actually, because my mother's French, but I thought business was better. More money in it, basically. And Franklin was great, you know. Really good school. I had a great time. But, as I say, basically, it was because my boyfriend was there. Well, my ex-boyfriend, I should say. And the teachers were terrific, of course.
Track 9.
Could you tell me what motivated you to study business, Anaïs, and why you chose to attend the Franklin School of Business?
Well, as regards choosing business, although I love languages, basically I've always wanted to go into management, and I felt that business was the obvious choice. It not only prepared me to work in more or less any department in a company, but it also means that I can use my language skills in an international career. In addition, a business degree always gets attention, interest, and respect. So, to sum up, I chose business rather than languages. If not, I think it would have been more difficult to get into management. As far as my choice of business school is concerned, it's true that the big names open doors, but on the other hand, newer schools like Franklin have significant advantages. For one thing, they have better facilities, and for another, they're less expensive. What's more, their curricula are more innovative, their classes are smaller, and their student intake is more diverse. In the end, I decided to choose a new university simply because it represented better value for money overall.
Track 10.
First of all, I would like to thank you all for coming here today. We hope you will enjoy your visit and experience for yourselves why Mangalia is such a wonderful place to live and study. As you know, institutions like MBS now compete on a global market. The days when we could rely on our contacts in Romania and Central Europe to fill our school are long gone. Today we compete with giants like Harvard and the London Business School. Small schools like MBS face a difficult choice. Either we sit back and watch the brightest students and the best professors fly away to Massachusetts, Paris, Barcelona or London, or we take risks, invest, and develop new ways to be more competitive in the global marketplace. Here in Mangalia, we are not used to sitting back and doing nothing. We have chosen to draw up a 5-year plan to make MBS a truly international business school. And we have invited you here to help us. We are not only relying on your experience, your know-how and your creativity to help us make the right decisions, but we are also counting on you to identify and promote the USPs, the unique selling propositions that will give us a competitive advantage in attracting the best students and the most influential corporate clients. As far as finance is concerned, some of you will already have heard the excellent news that the prominent businessman and multimillionaire Ion Bumbescu has offered to sponsor our school. This would have the immediate effect of doubling our budget. However, Mr. Bumbescu's business methods are somewhat controversial. And his offer specifies that the school should be known as the Bumbesco Business School. Consequently, I must ask you to consider carefully all the implications of such a change.
Track 11.
In business news, controversial multimillionaire Ion Bumbescu has again been accused of involvement in defense procurement for developing countries. Mr. Bumbescu, who is believed to be traveling in Southeast Asia, was unavailable for comment. But in a short statement made earlier today, a spokesman for Bumbescu Holdings claimed that the group's companies had done nothing illegal. Mr. Bumbescu's business methods have been frequently criticized by his competitors. Recently, his Bumbescu Foundation has been pouring millions into research and education projects in what appears to be an attempt to improve his image.
Track 12. Speaker 1.
I'm not sure all this technology is a good thing. Take these BlackBerry phones, for example. I was at a meeting last week where 3 of the 6 attendees spent most of the time doing email under the table. People get really addicted to it. It's a drug. I heard about one executive whose wife got so fed up with him checking his emails all weekend, she flushed his BlackBerry down the toilet.
Speaker 2.
IT. Oh, I love it. As soon as there's a new gadget, I have to have it. I think it's just amazing what you can do nowadays. Of course, you don't really save time, but you get so much more done in a day. I just cannot imagine how anyone can manage without a laptop and a mobile.
Speaker 3.
As far as I'm concerned, information technology is just another weapon in the class war. Management will use any way they can to exploit the workers, and increasing productivity with computer systems is just another way to get as much as they can. Not to mention the untold damage that the radiation and microwaves from all these electronic devices are doing to our eyes, our backs and our brains.
Speaker 4.
Well, I have to use the computer at work sometimes, but I wouldn't have one in the house. All those viruses and spam and computer crime. Anyway, a lot of people at work seem to spend more time fixing computer problems than actually doing any work. I think we'd be better off without them.
Track 13. Speaker 1.
Hello, Mr. Scopolidis? Oh, this is Ebony Brooks in accounts. Something went wrong with the system when I was in the middle of a backup. Everything just stopped. It wasn't just my computer. Do you think you could call me? Give me a ring as soon as you can.
Speaker 2.
George, it's Maurice. I'm still having that problem making appointments on the website. I log in and everything seems to freeze, and when I try to escape, I get the famous blue screen. Can you give me an update on what progress you've made on this problem? Just a quick report.
Speaker 3.
Yeah, George, it's Martha here. Listen, could you contact me? I want to replace my department's laptops with something more modern. Our old IBMs are getting pretty tired, know what I mean? Please get in touch as soon as you have a moment.
Speaker 4.
Hello, George. This is Lincoln Thigpen. I hope you can help me out here. I seem to have done something stupid. I was cleaning up my hard disk and, well, now some very important presentation slides seem to have disappeared. I hope you have some way of rescuing them. If you could get back to me with an answer sometime today, I'd appreciate it.
Speaker 5.
Hi, Mr. Scopolitis. This is Camilla Ramsey from Customer Services. It's about that little software thingy you sent me. I've copied it into the database program like you told me to, but it doesn't seem to work. I know some other people were having the same problem. Do you think you could include me in the group of people to inform? You know, keep me in the loop. Thanks.
Speaker 6.
George, Maurice again. Where the hell are you? Marketing are hassling me every 5 minutes because they still can't use the internet. Will you please tell me when you're going to be able to get them online? Let me know ASAP.
Speaker 7.
George, Marvin, long time no see. Remember how you said you could get that software from the internet to make my sound card work? Can't work without my music. I guess you're working on it, but can you keep me informed? Maybe a regular progress report, okay?
Speaker 8.
Good morning, Mr. Scopolitis. This is Cara Bickerson in marketing. I'm looking for a quicker way to get information from our market studies into the database. Typing it all in is just too slow. I'm interested in voice recognition software. I wonder if you could fill me in on the details of what's available. You can reach me anytime today before 4 p.m. Thank you.
Track 14.
Accounts.
Lorenzo, it's Kelly from sales.
Uh-huh.
Listen, I'm with a customer, and I need you to give me last year's billing figures.
What's the customer account number?
I don't have it here, but it's Zimmer in Wausau.
Well, if you don't have the account number, I can't help you.
Come on, Lorenzo, I really need this. I'm sure you can find it.
Oh, look, Kelly, it's the end of the month and we're closing the accounts. I'd like to help you, but I'm up to my eyes in work here. I really haven't got time to look for your customers' records now. Try Marielle in sales administration. I'll put you through.
Thanks a million.
Track 15.
Corey Wilkes.
Hello, Corey. It's Tabitha Pullman here.
Oh, hi, Tabitha. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Well, you know, mustn't grumble, I suppose. Things will be a bit easier when the weather improves.
Oh, yeah. It's been a really long winter, hasn't it? Anyway, have you got a couple of minutes?
Yes, sure.
Well, do you happen to know how to set up a Wi-Fi connection on a laptop? I would have asked the IT department, but apparently they're all in some big meeting, so I thought you might be able to help me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tabitha. I wish I could help you, but I don't know that much about it myself. Amanda does all my department's computer stuff, and she's out of the office today. I'm sorry.
Don't worry. I just thought you might know, but it doesn't matter. Thank you anyway.
No problem.
Anyway, I won't keep you any longer. Thanks once again.
You're welcome. Sorry I couldn't help you more.
That's all right. Bye.
Bye.
Track 16.
Hello?
Good afternoon. I wonder if I could speak to Miss Simpson, please?
Speaking.
Excuse me?
This is Lauren Simpson.
Ah, Miss Simpson. Eric Schrader, calling from Switzerland. We met at the conference in Nice last month.
Oh, yes, of course. How are you, Eric?
I am very well, thank you, Miss Simpson. And how are you?
Fine, thanks. What can I do for you?
Well, I'm very sorry to disturb you, but I was wondering if I could ask you a favor.
Yes, of course.
Do you think you could possibly send me a copy of the slides you showed at the conference? They were most interesting.
Ah, well, normally I'd be glad to help, but I'm afraid my hard disk crashed last week.
Oh, dear. How very unfortunate. I trust you didn't lose too much important information.
Well, everything, actually. But there wasn't too much important stuff on it, except the slides, of course.
And you wouldn't happen to have a backup or a hard copy, would you?
No, I'm afraid not.
I see. Well, I mustn't take up any more of your time. Thank you all the same, Miss Simpson.
You're welcome. Goodbye, Eric. I mean, Mr.
Schrader.
Yes. Goodbye then.
Track 17. Russell Pond speaking.
Hello, Russell. Mike.
Hello, mate. How's life?
Not so bad. And you?
Fine, fine. Looking forward to the weekend, though.
Yeah, me too. Russell, you got a moment?
Yes. What's on your mind?
Well, I know this is asking a lot, but I've got this presentation on Monday and my laptop's got a virus. Any chance I could borrow yours for the weekend?
Ah. Look, it's not that I don't trust you or anything.
Okay, just forget it. I shouldn't have asked.
The thing is, I've got some really important data on it, and the antivirus isn't up to date.
That's all right, Russell. I know what you mean. Anyway, I better get on. You going to the match on Saturday?
Yes, I expect so.
Okay, I'll see you there then. Bye.
Cheers. Track 18.
Hello, Chris Webster here. I'm at the airport, just about to leave for my holiday, and I've just realised there's something important I've forgotten to do. So I wonder if I could ask you a favour. You know the new procedure we discussed for computer upgrades? Asking people to evaluate their computing needs for the next 2 years, so we can budget for buying new equipment in advance. Well, do you think you could write a memo to everyone in the department explaining the new system? Or remind them that we've been dramatically over budget in the last 2 years, so some people who needed laptops didn't get one, while other people got an upgrade they didn't really need. I need to have the information in time for the budget meeting in October. So can you ask people to email me their evaluation as soon as possible, by the end of September at the latest? And make it positive and friendly, please, because I know people complain about the amount of paperwork they have to do already. Okay, I've got to go now. My plane's boarding. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate your help, and see you in 2 weeks.
Track 19.
Look, Astrid, we appointed Saul Finley because he's a very bright, very ambitious young man. All right, he's irritated some of his colleagues, but as he says, you don't make an omelette without breaking eggs. Of course, I'm worried about staff turnover and downtime costs, and so is Saul. But you have to remember that our transactions have increased by 40% since he joined us. Our subsidiaries in Ivory Coast, Ghana, Cameroon, etc. are growing really quickly. We need to invest in the new equipment he's asking for.
Track 20.
Well, if you ask me, I have to say that I think Saul is too ambitious. He's just empire building. Okay, he's increased our capacity. I suppose that's an achievement. But he's made our computer system too centralized. If the main server goes down, we're in trouble. Not just in Nigeria, but all over West Africa. The trend today is towards grid computing. That way, if the server in Lagos goes down, we can just redirect transactions via Abidjan, Niamey, or Dakar. I say we should decentralize our systems. And another thing, You can't explain the downtime just by component failures and software errors. You have to wonder whether some of it isn't malicious.
Track 21.
The problem is simple. Everybody in IT is exhausted. Mr. Finley is a very demanding manager. He works 15 hours a day, and he expects us to do the same. That's why so many people are leaving. Frankly, I'm not sure that appointing a European IT manager was such a good idea. Okay, Mr. Finley has raised salaries, but he's made the job too hard. And it's going to get more complicated if he invests in more sophisticated equipment. So now, some people are pleased when the system goes down. You know what I mean? We need to recruit more experienced staff. A lot more.
Track 22. Look, I've nothing against Sol Finley. I like him. He's a nice young man and he's succeeded in getting rid of some older staff who just couldn't adapt to change. Of course, he's made mistakes, like not understanding the work culture here. But that's almost inevitable when you bring in a foreign manager. I just want efficient service and no more downtime. Some of our big customers are getting very angry. It seems to me the simple answer is to outsource our IT services. That way we don't have any of the investment, HR or recruitment problems to worry about. Track 23.
Well, over the years in the household electrical goods industry, or white goods as it's often called, there's been a lot of talk about planned or built-in obsolescence. This means making products that are designed to last a limited time. It's true that we are seeing a general trend towards shorter product lifespans. A fridge, for example, that would once have lasted for 20 years now lasts for around 10 on average. However, I wouldn't go as far as to call it planned obsolescence. But it's true that manufacturers these days decide very carefully what build quality they are aiming for. Consumer behaviour is changing, and people don't want to keep things forever. They want to upgrade more often, and there's not much point in producing machines that will last for 20 years when people will be tired of them after 10. So most manufacturers design accordingly. And that's why it's often cheaper to buy something new than to have a product repaired. The cost of the spare parts and the labour time to repair a broken washing machine, for example, may well come to more than the cost price of a new one. I think another factor is recent legislation regarding recycling. This means that today's ethical consumer can buy electrical goods knowing that we can recycle them at the end of their useful life. And of course, they can also argue that by upgrading regularly, they're investing in more efficient, more environmentally friendly technology. Now, if you want to buy a quality product that will last, you can still go for the top brands.
Track 24. Speaker 1.
Well, most of the time I'm looking for value for money, you know, for everyday things and that. So a balance between quality and the price I'm paying. But if I'm splashing out on a pair of trainers or the latest MP3 player, I want something reliable that's going to last. And of course, they've got to look great too, know what I mean?
Speaker 2.
My job basically involves ensuring that the process is as efficient as possible and makes the best use of all the resources needed to make the final product. So I'm constantly looking at ways to improve it, which means not only solving problems that come up, but also looking for new ways to do things even better. I let the design guys worry about pure product quality. Quality for me is really producing a part or a product which conforms to given technical specifications in the most cost-effective way.
Speaker 3. Although I believe what I do contributes to the end quality of the product, it's not really my everyday concern. I check that the company has documented quality procedures in place and that they're being followed. So, I suppose, in theory, the company might conform to the quality standards, but might be producing a product that is substandard in some way. We don't live in a perfect world, after all. Track 25.
Well, thank you all for coming. I know you're all very busy at the moment, so we'll see if we can sort this out as quickly as possible. Jose, perhaps you can start and tell us the background from the sales side.
Sure, Willie. Well, the problem is simple. Airbridge can't fix the pumps to the fuel tanks properly. The reason, it seems, is because they don't fit.
What do you mean they don't fit, Jose?
Basically, Birgit, your production department put the wrong type of fitting on the pumps.
My production department, Jose. Hold on. First of all, sales didn't warn productions that they wanted this early. That made things very difficult. We had to organize an extra shift.
Well, yes, I'm sorry about that. We'll try to give you more warning next time.
That was bad enough, and stock didn't make things any easier. They shouldn't have sent 2 different parts to the workshop in the same delivery. And to top it all, they delivered them at the last minute. Okay, I'm prepared to admit that there may have been a problem, but you can hardly blame my people in production if they didn't spot the difference.
But wait a minute, Birgit. The stock department didn't make a mistake. If you remember, at the last logistics meeting, we, yes, you, me and everybody else, decided to deliver different parts together to reduce stock movements.
Okay, Willie, okay, I accept that. But stock did deliver late, and sales should have given us more warning.
More warning? How could we give you more warning? You know that Airbridge only increased their order 2 weeks before the final delivery date. It's always the same. The customer...
Whoa! Now take it easy, both of you. We are not going to find a solution if we spend all our time blaming each other. We've all made mistakes, but, as I see it, the underlying cause seems to be customer pressure. So, let's put our heads together and see how we can improve our reaction time without compromising our quality.
Track 26. Speaker 1.
Anyway, the ACI has shown an increase on the marginal propensity gradient of 4.5% over and above the CDWLP.
Speaker 2.
Well, that's, as you can see, an increase, okay, in the rate of sales growth over the quarter. And this rate of growth, okay, continued, okay, into the new year, which was completely unexpected, okay. And then...
Speaker 3.
As is clear from the graph, there was an important development, important change in the market structure during the previous year.
Speaker 4.
Obviously, we aim to do a profit. We always expect to do a profit, and I'm sure we will do a profit. The sales team are really making a great job.
Track 27. So, this graph shows the PFR. That's the part failure rate per 10,000 over the first 10 months of the year. As you can see, it was pretty high for the first 4 months, around 70 on average. And that's why we set up the quality improvement plan in April. By the way, I'd just like to thank Magda for her input on the plan. I think you'll all agree she did a great job. Anyway, the first results were very promising. with PFR falling to 35 in May and then 28 in June. However, since then the rate has got worse again, rising to 44 in August and 47 last month. So we need to turn things around again. In other words, get the rate back down in the 20s or better. And basically that's why we're here today, to look at the reasons and some possible solutions. Is that clear so far? Good. Well, I think that covers the basic problem. So now I'd like to look at some of the reasons we've identified. Let's look at the next table, which shows very clearly, I think. Track 28.
Hello, Max speaking.
Hi, Max. It's Janice.
Oh, hi, Jan. How are things? Did you get the same TV stand as me in the end?
Well, yes, Max, I did. As a matter of fact, that's why I'm calling. I can't put the thing together, and I've lost the assembly instructions. I was wondering if you'd kept yours by any chance.
I may just be able to help you out. Hold on a sec. Yep, got him.
Great, Max. You're a hero. Everybody's coming round to watch the film this evening, and I don't want to put the TV on the floor.
But hold on a minute, Jan. You still got to put it together. Have you got all the parts?
Well, I don't really know, 'cause I've lost the parts list, too.
Well, never mind about that. I'll read it to you and you can check if you have everything, okay?
Okay, Max. Go ahead.
Okay, let's see. You should have one top panel, two side panels.
One top panel, two side panels. Yeah, this looks like them.
Yeah. Then one crossbar and one shelf.
Crossbar. One shelf.
4 pegs, 8 screws, and 4 caster wheels. You got that?
4 pegs, 8 screws, and 4 wheels. Yes, it looks as if they're all here. If you could just send me the instructions, Max, I think I can manage.
I'm afraid that's going to be a little difficult, Jan, because it's just a diagram and I don't have a scanner. But it looks pretty straightforward. If you want, I can write some assembly instructions and email them to you. How does that sound?
Oh, that'd be great, Max. Thanks.
That's okay, Jan. Glad I can help. Anyway, if you want to watch the film, I'd better get writing.
Cheers, Max.
Cheers, Jan, and enjoy the film.
Track 29.
Piotr Siberski?
Good morning, Mr. Siberski. This is Suzanne van Peters from Sherman in Amsterdam.
Ah, morning, Miss Van Peters. I imagine you're calling about the email we got from you yesterday?
That's right.
Something about a quality audit, wasn't it? Don't think you'll find much wrong with our strawberries quality-wise.
I'm sure you're right, Mr. Siberski. We've always been very happy with your fruit. But as I mentioned in my email, we're currently running audits with all our fresh fruit suppliers. Basically, it's a matter of looking at a wide range of issues which may impact fruit quality and seeing where there may be room for improvement. You know, sort of trying to iron out any potential problems before they happen.
Well, of course, you're welcome to come and see us if you want, but I'm not sure what can be improved, really. Your purchasing guy comes here at least once a year, and he's never had anything negative to say about our strawberries. Apart from the price, of course.
Yeah, well, in fact, I was calling to fix up a visit to you. Our supplier audits generally last a day or two, and I was wondering whether you'd be free to see us towards the end of next week.
Next week? That's rather short notice, and we are pretty busy at the moment. But hold on, let me check my schedule. Yes, I guess I could see you on Thursday and or Friday, if that suits you.
Perfect, Mr. Siberski. Thursday would be fine. We'd probably be arriving the night before, so we could start as early as you like on Thursday morning.
Well, I get in around 7 most days, Miss Van Peters. Gives me time to look at the important matters before things really get going and I'm interrupted every 5 minutes.
7? Well, we'll give you a bit of breathing space, Mr. Siberski. How about 8:30?
Suits me fine, Miss Van Peters. So that's 8:30 on the 15th.
Great. Looking forward to seeing you next Thursday.
Yeah, see you then. Thank you for calling. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Mr. Siberski.
Track 30.
Perhaps we could begin with harvesting, Mr. Siberski. Who does that?
Well, the farms hire their own workers each season, generally students or local people.
And do they get any training?
That's the responsibility of each producer, but I know most of them do some. After all, it's in their own interests.
What about supervision and picking bonuses to make sure only sound fruit are picked?
Most farms pay a small productivity bonus if daily picking targets are met, but it encourages quantity rather than quality, I think. And I must admit, there's little supervision of the picking crews.
And how is the fruit packed for transfer to your cooler?
The pickers put them in standard wooden trays, 10 centimeters deep. Then the trays are placed on trailers, and when the trailer is full, it's pulled to our shed by tractor.
Isn't that rather long, Mr. Siberski? I mean, how long do they take to get from the field to your cooler?
On average, I reckon 3 or 4 hours. Maybe more if several trailers arrive at the same time. In the cooler, the berries are cooled to a temperature of 3 degrees. Then they're placed in the storage shed until we can pack them.
I presume the storage shed is chilled too?
Well, yes, it is. The thermostat is kept on 2 degrees, but to be honest, we haven't got time to keep records. The picking season is always such a mad rush, you know, Miss Van Peters.
Yes, I can imagine.
From storage, the strawberries go to the packing shed. But I'll let Clara tell you about that. She's been our packing shed supervisor for 7 years now, and she knows the job inside out. Clara.
Thanks, Piotr. Well, Miss Van Peters, the packing shed is where we put the berries into the punnets for retail sale in outlets like yours. It's seasonal work, and most people imagine that it's unskilled. But I can tell you that good packers are not easy to find.
And what about training and bonuses, things like that?
Of course, we give them basic training when they're hired. Fruit selection, careful handling to avoid bruising, that sort of thing. But they learn on the job otherwise. They're paid according to what they pack in a day, so there aren't any bonuses. In fact, we've been looking at the idea of a bonus based on the quality of packing. You know, making sure that they don't put bruised or decaying berries in the packages and so on. But quite honestly, it's not very easy to measure that sort of thing.
Yes, but it would certainly be a good idea, I'm sure. And there'd be benefits all along the line. As supervisor, do you check the quality of fruit being packed?
Not as much as I'd like. You see, I'm usually packing too, covering for absent staff, that sort of thing.
I see. Now, what about shipping?
Well, the punnets are loaded onto trucks for shipping to customers around Europe. Now we require the trucks to have refrigeration systems and be cooled to 0 degrees before loading, but we don't check them systematically.
Well, thank you for your explanations, Mrs. Solak. Let me see. Yes. One last question for the moment, Mr. Siberski. I'm sure you're aware that the use of nitrogen fertilizers can lead to softer fruit, lower sugar content and less flavor. Do your farmers use nitrogen?
Yes, I'm aware of the problem, Miss Van Peters, and at the moment, a lot of them still use it. But it's an expensive operation anyway, and most of the producers in the region are planting new varieties of strawberry which don't need nitrogen. So I reckon that the practice will have died out within the next 2 or 3 years.
Well, that's encouraging. Good. Now perhaps we could go and look at the...
Track 31.
Okay, I think everyone's here apart from Mr. Wong, who'll be joining us on the video link in half an hour. So, perhaps we can start. The purpose of today's meeting is to review the dam project schedule to date. Look at why things have slipped and see what we can do to get things back on track. First, I'd like to take a look at the original schedule on the Gantt chart here, to put our current situation into perspective. I think you'll all agree things ran pretty smoothly in year 1, and we reached the first milestones, completion of the feasibility study and the geological survey, bang on target at the end of August. Unfortunately, we got bogged down in bureaucracy, you know, the usual red tape, at the project approval stage. That set us back 4 months, and we could only begin buying the land in May of year 2. Land purchase went pretty much according to plan, despite some delays for legal reasons, but it still took 12 months. We were able to start population resettlement on time, but we had to postpone diverting the river for 6 months as it had to be done in the summer months, when the river was at its lowest, which meant starting June of year 3. So, that's how things stand today. We've just completed the 2 tunnels to divert the river, so that's almost complete, and we're beginning excavations for the dam foundations next week, 1 year behind schedule, which means we won't be able to begin work on the dam wall until at least September of year 4. Of course, due to this schedule slippage, we're also facing considerable cost overruns. So I'd like your suggestions on how we can crash the schedule. I mean accelerate things, to try to respect the original delivery date at the end of year 7. Any ideas?
Track 32.
Well, Andre, thanks for finding time to see me. I know things are very busy, what with the annual appraisal interviews. Anyway, perhaps you can just give me your impressions of Anna, Bjorn and Katja before we go through the interview results in a bit more detail.
Sure, Lucy. So, first of all, Anna. Well, on the positive side, she's hard-working, but she's very independent and single-minded. She tends to do her own thing, and she'll pass the buck if she feels it's not her problem, so the others in the team see her as selfish and a bit of a loner. They often think she's not pulling her weight and that she's letting the team down, just because she doesn't see things the same way. And she can be pretty direct, which of course the others interpret as being overcritical. But I don't think she means to be.
Okay, so Anna has her good and bad points. Now, what about Bjorn?
Yes, Bjorn. To be honest, he seems very stressed, and I'm worried that he may burn out. He works long hours. He's often in the office long after everyone's gone home. He's definitely organized. Some of the others would say obsessive, but I'm not sure he's always really clear about what needs doing and what is less important, so he tends to create work for himself. He could certainly do to take it easy sometimes, you know.
Yes, sounds as if he needs to learn to pace himself a little better.
Yeah, that's right. He could do with some time management training, in fact, and I'd like to come back to that when we look at interview results in detail.
Good idea. But first, let's just finish with Katja.
Well, Katja. Well, the first thing is she's new, but she's settling in really well. She's friendly and easygoing and gets on well with nearly everybody except Anna. She's really helpful and she knows what it means to pull together in a team, and she's always ready to cover for somebody. On the other hand, she can be a bit messy, but she's definitely not incompetent, and I think she's very cooperative with her colleagues.
Track 33.
Raphael,
Yes, ma'am.
I want to see you in my office now.
Yes, Mrs. Gomez.
I don't know what the hell you think you're playing at, but I'm not having it. Are you trying to sabotage this company?
I'm sorry, I don't...
You've been here for 3 years now. You should know better. Don't you like your job? There are plenty of other people just waiting for their chance if you don't want it.
I'm very sorry, Mrs. Gomez, but I don't know...
Don't interrupt me. You're insolent and incompetent. I don't know what you did, but Mr. Baitan was very upset. Mr. Baitan is a very important customer. We can't afford to upset him. If this happens again, you're out.
Yes, Mrs. Gomez.
All right. I think I've made myself clear. This is your last chance. Now stop wasting my time and get back to work.
Yes, ma'am.
Track 34.
Raphael,
Yes, ma'am.
would you step into my office, please?
Yes, Mrs. Gomez.
Raphael, I notice you're not wearing a tie today.
Well, it's very hot and,
Always wear a tie, Raphael. If not, your staff will not respect you. Now, sit down, please. I want to talk to you about Sundays.
Yes?
I know you normally attend church on Sunday morning, so I was very pleased to see that you came to work the last 3 Sundays while Maria was sick.
Thank you, ma'am.
Maria had better be very careful. This is the 3rd time this year she's been sick. Fortunately for her, you took the initiative of covering for her.
Yes, ma'am.
So, this is a good point for you, but a bad point for Maria. All right, Raphael, that's all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, just one other thing, Raphael. You didn't switch off the computer when you left yesterday evening. Be very careful. This kind of carelessness can cause a fire. You must remember to switch off when you leave.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Gomez. It won't happen again.
All right. See that it doesn't.
Track 35.
Raphael,
Yes, ma'am?
could I have a word with you in my office? Have a seat, Raphael. Now, can you tell me exactly what happened with Mr. Baitan on Friday?
I'm sorry, but I was very tired, and he was being really difficult. I just lost my patience, and he wouldn't stop asking me the same questions.
Well, Raphael, you have many qualities, but I think there are a few areas where we need to improve your skills, don't you?
Yes, definitely.
Now, do you have any ideas as to why Mr. Baitan was quite so upset?
I understand he's an important customer. He wants to get the information that's important to him. I'm afraid I was probably a bit rude to him.
So, Raphael, do you realize that this kind of problem can have serious consequences?
Yes, of course.
All right, then. So, what do you think we can do to make sure this situation doesn't happen again?
It might be useful to do the customer care course. Perhaps Maria could help a bit more when things are particularly busy.
Right. I think that's a good plan. So, before you go, can I just summarize what we have agreed? I'll book you on the course next week, and Maria will give you some help during the really busy periods. okay? And then we'll meet again in 1 month to see how you're getting on. Is that all right with you?
Yes, that's fine, Mrs. Gomez. Thank you very much.
All right. Now let's break the weekly sales records, shall we?
Yes, ma'am. Track 36.
Abeba, you've been a mechanic in Witu for 5.5 years. Is that right?
Yes, sir, that's right.
So, you worked for 2 other dealers before Mr. Mbugwa, and you say that things have got worse since he became the dealer here.
Yes, sir. Before Mr. Mbugwa arrived, we had a good team. Everyone pulled together, and we enjoyed our work. Now, it's not at all the same. Morale is bad, and the customers can see the difference. A lot of our regular customers have stopped coming. Mr. Mbugwa fired several good colleagues for no reason, just so he could hire his friends and relatives instead. They get the easy shifts, and the rest of us do the hard work.
Have you spoken to the sales rep about this?
Mrs. Mohammed? We never see her. She's too busy with the development project. Anyway, she can't do anything. Mr. Mbugwa is Mr. Wambugu's nephew. Didn't you know? To be honest, I'd leave if there was any choice. But there aren't any other jobs around here, so I just have to put up with it.
Track 37.
Mr. Mbugwa, I've been hearing accusations of favoritism, and that you've employed friends and members of your family in your service station.
Oh, don't pay any attention to what Abeba says, Mr. Thorpe. She's not a team player, only interested in herself. It would be better for her to leave, and the sooner she leaves, the better.
But is it true that you employ members of your family?
Yes, of course it's true. As a young dealer, I work my fingers to the bone for Trident, Mr. Thorpe, and I get very little thanks for it. I need staff who will work hard for the company, too. And it's not easy to find them, I can tell you. I employ 2 of my cousins and a couple of friends because I know they're hard workers like me. What's wrong with that?
Does Mrs. Mohammed agree with this recruitment policy?
I haven't asked her. Anyway, I don't think Mrs. Mohammed is interested. Her big development project is far more important. I get absolutely no support from her, or from the company for that matter. Other companies look after their dealers much better. I have to do everything myself. Everything.
Track 38.
Thank you for taking the time to see me, Mr. Thorpe. I really need to talk to someone. I don't think I can go on much longer like this.
That's what I'm here for, Mrs. Mohammed. The more you can tell me about the problems, the better. And I promise I'll do my best to help.
Thank you. It's just, I always wanted to become a sales rep, but it's turned into a nightmare. Mr. Wambugu, the district manager, delegates everything to me, and I just can't cope. He gives me impossible deadlines, then blames me when we fall behind schedule. And that means I have no time to visit the dealers, so they're not getting any support.
Yes, I've just been speaking to Mr. Mbugwa in Witu.
Oh, don't talk to me about Mbugwa. The man is a monster. The way he treats his staff is a disgrace, especially the women.
So how did he become a young dealer?
Didn't you know? He's Mr. Wambugu's nephew. I tried to stop his appointment, but there was nothing I could do. I think Mr. Wambugu got to hear about it, and he's never forgiven me. I think he's giving me too much work because he hopes I'll quit.
Track 39.
Mr. Thorpe, this is Mr. Wambugu. One of my sales reps, Mrs. Mohammed, has just handed me her resignation. I intend to promote Mr. Mbugwa, currently the young dealer in Witu, to the position of sales rep. He is a hard-working young man with energy, ideas, and enthusiasm, who will do well in the job. As you are no doubt aware, I need you to authorize this appointment with the HR department in Nairobi. Personally, I think corporate should stop interfering and let us Kenyans manage our own affairs. However, since that's the procedure, I would appreciate it if you could deal with this matter as soon as possible.
Track 1.
Hey, Marcus, look at this viral ad somebody sent me. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I saw it on YouTube. It's quite funny, I suppose.
Quite funny. It's hilarious. I think we should get one made for our next campaign instead of a TV ad. People really enjoy a good laugh, so they remember them more easily.
Well, personally, I'm not sure virals are really very effective. Now everybody's using them, so I think they're having less impact, not more.
Oh, come on, Marcus. They reach a huge number of households and they cost next to nothing.
Well, that's another thing. Apart from teenagers, I'm convinced only a small proportion of the public really watch them. And teenagers don't buy car tyres.
But they do influence their parents' choice. You have to admit that.
Well, yes. But anyway, just because an ad makes people laugh, it doesn't mean they'll buy the product. So we don't get increased sales.
No, but it's all about image. A good viral ad makes a product really cool. And remember, most people don't choose to watch TV ads, so they just ignore them. But when they make a conscious decision to watch a viral, they pay more attention.
Track 2. Speaker 1.
Determining market segmentation is essential when using media like TV. Football matches guarantee a large masculine audience. Every 4 years, the World Cup attracts an average 90 million viewers per match. It's the perfect opportunity for advertisers to try to flood the market with razors, deodorants, and sports shoes.
Speaker 2. Entering a new market often means a hard sell. If you want to promote your new alarm system to companies in Eastern Europe, don't waste money on TV or newspaper advertising. Conduct a market study to identify suitable targets, send out a mail shot, then call any companies who show an interest in your product. Speaker 3.
New technology is providing new promotional tools. Sellers can use electronic databases to select suitable prospects, then address a personalized sales pitch by email or SMS. These techniques are often combined with telemarketing. Don't be surprised if the email you received about investing in a timeshare apartment in Spain is followed up a day or two later by a call on your mobile inviting you on a free holiday.
Speaker 4.
In many Western countries, tobacco and cigarettes are facing a declining market. Advertising is strictly regulated, so even market leaders have to resort to stealth tactics, like getting their products in films. Smoking is all about image, and the subliminal messages delivered by Hollywood movie stars are strong motivators.
Speaker 5.
A movie is a product with huge development costs. In order to guarantee successful box office, DVD and TV sales, it is crucial to capture market share in the first days after release. Producers encourage rumours about the love life of their stars in the weeks before they bring the movie to market. Nothing attracts public interest more than a little scandal.
Speaker 6.
A little market research soon demonstrates that one of the best ways to develop a niche market like skateboarding accessories is by releasing games or video clips featuring the products onto the net. Teenagers circulate them to their friends. It's a perfect soft sell by word of mouth, or word of electronic messaging to be precise.
Track 3.
You don't happen to know how many you ordered last year, do you? You don't really want to run out of components, do you?
Track 4. 1.
You don't happen to know how many you ordered last year, do you?
2.
You don't really want to run out of components, do you?
3.
You couldn't possibly give me an order today, could you?
4.
You can't afford failure, can you?
5.
You'd agree that everybody needs to know how to use the system, wouldn't you?
6.
You wouldn't have any idea how many people need training, would you?
7.
You really should upgrade your software regularly, shouldn't you?
8.
You haven't upgraded to the new version yet, have you?
Track 5.
You'd enjoy driving a nice new car, wouldn't you?
I probably would enjoy it, that's right.
I imagine your old car is costing you a lot in repairs, isn't it?
It certainly is.
And I expect you're going on holiday soon, aren't you?
That's correct.
Ooh.
So, this might be a good time to think about buying a new car, right?
Well, possibly.
Because you wouldn't want to break down in the middle of your holiday, would you?
Of course not.
You didn't say no then, did you?
No, I said of course.
Oh, no!
Track 6.
Listen, your proposal looks great, but I just don't feel ready to take the plunge.
Well, if you don't sign the contract this week, I'll have to bill you for the study and the plans for the pool.
Bill me for the study? You never mentioned that.
It's all in our literature. Look, here, in the small print.
Track 7.
$32,000? How do you justify that?
Simple. To develop software as good as this, you need the best engineers.
But I've had another quotation for less than $20,000.
Well, you know what they say? If you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. Track 8.
Can you give me a discount?
I'm afraid it's not our policy.
Oh, come on! I used to work in a health club, so I know you can if you want to.
Well, perhaps a 5% reduction?
10%! Take it or leave it. Now, where do I sign?
Track 9.
Listen, your proposal looks great, but I just don't feel ready to take the plunge.
I know exactly what you mean. It's a big decision to make, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm just worried that I won't have enough time to do everything.
Oh, I see. Finding enough time is always a problem, isn't it?
Yeah, things are busy at work and I don't have time for the garden, let alone a pool.
Okay, well, I understand. We all want to get a product we can actually use, don't we?
Sure.
So, if we include the automatic chlorinator and robot pool cleaner options, I can guarantee that you will spend less than 10 minutes a week on maintenance. Are you comfortable with that?
Track 10.
$32,000? How do you justify that?
I understand how you feel. Like you, a lot of our customers felt that this was more than they wanted to spend. However, they soon found they were saving money. After you start using the software, you'll reduce your operating costs by 25 to 30%.
As much as that?
Yes, more in some cases, but that's the average saving. Have I answered your question? Track 11.
Can you give me a discount?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that. Our philosophy is that if we gave discounts, we'd have to compromise on quality and service. And I'm sure you'd agree that would be a mistake, wouldn't you?
Yes, I suppose it would.
So tell me, is the membership fee the only reason you're not ready to sign up now?
Yes, I've just bought a new car, you see.
Right. So if I could postpone your first payment to next year, would you be ready to sign up today? Would that make sense?
Track 12.
Mr. Lim?
Yes?
I just had a call from Seoul Deliveries, you know, the courier company.
Yes?
They're interested in mobiles for about 200 staff.
Are they now? We'd better send somebody to see them.
They said they like a proposal by fax.
Well, yes, but we need to know more about their needs before we can write a proposal. Let me note this down. Who's in charge over there?
The office manager is Mr. Ibanez. He's French, apparently.
Ibanez. Right. 200, you say? Do we know who they want the phones for?
Well, there are 3 categories: drivers, managers, and admin staff.
Admin staff? Why do they want mobiles?
Well, it seems that they have to move about a lot between different offices. They only really need to call the drivers when they're out on the road, but they take a lot of calls from customers, and they like the idea of Bluetooth headsets so they can work hands-free.
I see. Yes, that makes sense. I can imagine it would make their lives a lot easier. What about the managers?
They seem quite keen on BlackBerries. Email is very important for them.
Good. They'll need the high-tech price plan then. Do you think budget will be a problem?
They didn't say.
Good. We can try to sell some longer contracts. We need to secure our future cash flow, even if we have to give discounts.
They did say they were interested in giving the drivers a sophisticated phone to motivate them.
Oh, sounds better and better. And the geo-positioning system would be really useful. Then the office would always know exactly where they were.
I don't know if the drivers would like that very much.
You're right, I'll make a note. We have met some resistance in the past. But generally, once they find out there's an MP3 player, and they can also have TV to keep up with baseball and soccer games, they're happy.
But I guess the managers won't be very happy if they think drivers are wasting time watching TV and playing video games.
Well, that's where we come in. The sales team's goal is to show them why they need all these features and to try to get some longer contracts and sell them some options too, of course. Okay, thanks very much. I'll get someone over there as soon as possible.
Track 13.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Biz Podcast, coming to you from sunny California. I'm your host, Karen Gilder, and today we're going to be talking about raising finance for new businesses. My guest today is Alex Vecchia, a business angel here on the West Coast. Hi, Alex, and welcome.
Great to be here, Karen.
Alex, I was reading an article about do-it-yourself financing for new businesses the other day, and it gave the impression that trying to raise finance from venture capitalists or business angels was a complete waste of time.
Well, Karen, I think a lot depends on how much money you need. Of course, if you just need a few $1,000s, you may be able to raise that from friends and family, and that's okay for projects with low startup costs. But most people underestimate the real costs of setting up a business, and even the do-it-yourselfers will probably come knocking on the venture capitalists or the angels' door at some stage.
And what are angels looking to get out of a deal?
Of course, the bottom line is, like for any investor, an angel is in it to make a profit. Typically, we're looking at a high return on investment over a period of, say, 5 years.
And for all the budding entrepreneurs listening to us today, what key factors would convince you to back them?
That's a complex question, Karen. But I think most potential investors will be looking at 3 broad areas: the team, the business, and the deal. First, the team. Many entrepreneurs forget that most seasoned investors bet on the jockey, not on the horse. Okay, you must pitch your idea, but don't forget to sell yourself and your team. Potential investors want proof of honesty, determination, and commitment. Market knowledge and business skills are vital too. The business plan is important, of course, but investors want to be sure you can actually run a business, not just write about it. In terms of the business, financial forecasts must be realistic, and the business plan should present both a best and a worst-case scenario. And you may well need to demonstrate a high growth potential too, because static lifestyle businesses, a single restaurant for example, just aren't attractive to investors. Finally, in terms of the deal, an unrealistic business valuation is a classic deal killer. Sometimes they can be too high for the investor, too low for the entrepreneur. Otherwise, make sure you have everything to hand for the due diligence process. Investors will want to check such things as the certificate of incorporation, audited accounts, details of existing contracts, and so on. Oh, and you shouldn't ignore.
Track 14. Speaker 1.
Well, basically, the first angel we met turned us down because of the IRR. That's the internal rate of return we were forecasting, between 30 and 40%. Investors lose money on around 40% of deals and they need to make that up on the others. So a rate of 50% per annum minimum would have been a tastier carrot, you know, a better return on investment.
Speaker 2.
The three of us were fresh out of college, full of enthusiasm with a damn good product. We had checked out the market and drawn up a real good business plan. But there was just one problem. None of us had run a business before, and I guess we just didn't have the sort of hands-on experience they were looking for.
Speaker 3.
The venture capitalist we contacted went through our business plan in detail. When he'd finished working out the figures, he said that our niche market was just that, too niche, not enough growth potential. Our target customers were specialists in their own field, and there would have been a limit to what we could sell them.
Speaker 4. We'd done our homework and we knew that the financials needed to be set out in detail. But in retrospect, I think we tried to be too realistic, taking all eventualities into account. The projections were peppered with if this, then that, and I think they were looking for something more concrete. Track 15.
Last but not least, that brings us to the question of questions. A lot of inexperienced presenters are terrified of the question and answer session. After all, it's the part of the presentation over which, apparently, you have least control. But with careful preparation, you can come out smiling. Put yourself in your listener's shoes. What sort of questions could they ask you? What are the worst questions they could come up with? And how can you answer them? And preparing for questions involves developing your general question answering techniques, improving your skills in response to the 5 basic types of question. There are a couple of general points to remember. The first point to remember when you're fielding questions is listen to the questioner. For example, maintain eye contact with the questioner and use body language, nodding for example, to show that you're paying attention. The next thing to remember is don't interrupt. That would make you look rude, and the questioner might feel he or she hasn't had a chance to get their point across. Next, comment on the question before you answer it. This signals your attitude to the audience, but equally important, gives you a few seconds of thinking time. The final thing to remember is to reply to the audience. Yes, not just the person who asked the question, but the whole audience. Although one person asked the question, it might have been in everyone's minds. After all, you hope everybody wants to hear the answer.
Track 16.
That brings me to the 5 basic question types and how to react to them. First, useful questions. They reinforce or clarify what you're saying. Thank people for asking them. Second, awkward questions. Questions can be awkward for different reasons. They may be loaded, aiming to put you on the spot, aggressive, or just unclear. Or maybe you just don't have the answer. Whatever, you must avoid getting into an argument. Defuse the aggressive ones, clarify the vague ones. Be prepared to explain, reformulate, or reassure. Be fair, but firm. And don't be aggressive or defensive yourself. And be honest. If you can't or don't want to answer, say so, or offer to get back to the questioner afterwards. Next, irrelevant questions. Double-check quickly that they are irrelevant, comment tactfully, and move on. Then there are unnecessary questions, which you've already covered. Point this out, summarise briefly, and move on. And finally, no questions. Maybe your presentation was perfect and your audience is speechless. Unfortunately, in most cases, two other scenarios are more common. Either they need a bit of encouragement, or you've put them to sleep. In either case, if you don't want to finish on a low, you need to start them off. Tell them a question you're often asked, and then answer it. The chances are the questions will begin to flow. Okay, let's look in a bit more detail at...
Track 17. Kate, if I didn't know you better, I'd say you brought me here to boost my morale. The food's okay and the decor isn't bad. But if this is the best Montreal can offer, then I think we can do better with Columa.
Shh, Lois, the waitress. Yeah, but you're right. I'm sure we can.
Did you bring the executive summary headings? Sorry, I forgot to print them out.
Yep. Here you go. Shall we just take it as it comes?
Yeah, go for it. Outline. Columa.
Well, we need to say a bit about what Columa is. You know, a medium-sized restaurant selling organic food and so on. We also need to say we have an emphasis on fair trade. I think people think that's more and more important. Now, target customers?
Well, I suggest we need to think a bit more about that one before we define a precise target market. After all, Montreal's a big city, and I'm sure if the product is good, the customers will come.
Okay, let's leave that for later. So, core products. We have to say that we are selling healthy, organic cuisine, but to me, it's not just a question of that. We have to also mention the cool atmosphere. So it's not just the food, but the whole concept that we're offering. That sort of thing.
Yeah, I'll go for that. Okay, management team. Well, that's easy, really. We can mention that I'm the general manager. That's probably all they need to know about me. And you're the financial manager.
Don't forget about Mario, though. He's one of the most experienced chefs in town. Let's mention that he's the head chef.
Okay. Now, what's next? Oh, keys to success. Well, we have to mention the location. We've talked about that a lot, haven't we?
We should definitely emphasize our location, which is excellent. The other thing we should mention is the training we're giving our staff. Good service is everything. So, location and training.
Yeah. You know, I think we're gonna be better than the competition. The whole experience is gonna be, well, just so much nicer than a place like this.
Shh, the waitress!
Sorry, I'm just getting overexcited again.
Yeah, well, the financials should calm you down. After all, that's why we're here in the first place. I think we should just stick to some basic figures. Let's just give our predicted turnover. I think we said $380,000 in year one. That was right, wasn't it? And then $550,000 by the end of year two.
Yeah, $380,000 and $550,000. And lastly, our mission. I think we should keep it really simple.
I agree. I had two main things in mind. to be a great place to eat with an engaging atmosphere.
That's obvious enough.
And to provide great, healthy food.
Fantastic. With that devil Mario in the kitchen, we're gonna be unbeatable.
Well, Luis, let's just hope that General Manager Luis Hernandez, with his 15 years of management experience, and Mario the Devil, can persuade an angel to part company with $50,000 next week.
Shh, Kate, the waitress.
Oh.
Track 18.
So, to summarize, first you have to grab your audience with your opening sentence. You may have a fantastic product and a dynamite team, but if you don't get investors' attention, you won't get funded. So make sure you have a great hook. Then, cut out all the hype or exaggeration. Don't use superlatives like cheapest, fastest, and so on. Be specific. Say 15% cheaper, 10% faster than the competition, and be relevant, 'cause you just don't have time in 60 seconds to go into detail. And of course, make sure your pitch can be delivered in 60 seconds without rushing. That means a maximum of 150 words, and probably something near a 100. Finally, questions. The angels may have only 3 minutes to ask them, but those 3 minutes will seem like an eternity to you if you aren't prepared. So, think about the sort of questions they might ask, the tough ones, and decide how you're going to respond. Now, I know they will...
Track 19.
Welcome to Next Steps, the Graduate Career Podcast. I'm joined today by Pedro Avellaneda, a Manchester-based careers consultant who's been researching changing attitudes to the financial services industry, in particular, accountancy. Pedro, why do you think accountancy has had an image problem?
Well, it's a stereotype, and in that sense, it's unfair. But there's often an element of truth to a stereotype, and the image may have had some basis in fact in the past. There are several reasons why I think the image developed. Firstly, accountancy is seen as based on numbers. Most people aren't that keen on maths, and it's a subject that a lot of people give up as soon as they can. It's a shame people make this association because these days much of the maths is taken care of by computers, and the accountants can focus on analysis and strategy. Another reason is that accountancy is seen as predictable. I guess what people have in mind is that the tasks you have to do are often similar, relating to balance sheets, profit and loss accounts, and so on. This isn't really true anymore, since accountants do a lot else besides. Finally, accountancy is seen as a steady job. You might ask what's the problem with that, but for some people, it implies that accountants are not risk takers.
And what's changing now? I mean, how would you say the accountancy profession is breaking out of the stereotype?
Well, the best way to answer that is to look at the facts. A recent survey into job satisfaction showed that people who entered so-called creative professions like advertising and the media were often the least satisfied with their jobs. Accountancy, however, reported excellent job satisfaction. 67% said they wanted to stay in their jobs. So it seems people who pursue accountancy don't find it predictable. Another reason for its changing image is that it's friendly to women. In the US, 60% of public accountants are women, and in the UK, levels are also high. So it's a female-friendly profession, and this has changed some of the negative perception. The stereotypical accountant was often a man. Finally, accountants really are key decision makers. Accountants today are important figures in the boardroom, and it's often accountants who have the best understanding to make big management decisions. In that sense, it's a very responsible position. As a consequence, I think, graduates are recognizing that accountancy is a profession in which they can expect to have real influence on a business.
Okay, thanks, Pedro. Now, I've got some questions for you. We've had some emails.
Track 20.
Okay, guys, your financial reporting system looks to be in good shape, but we're going to have to make a few changes in terms of when you do things and how often, to bring things into line with US procedures. Do a bit of tweaking on the reporting period side and...
Sorry, Alice, could you repeat?
Sure, Serge. I was saying we need to do a bit of tweaking on the reporting period side. And we need to iron out some issues on the IT side too, David. But I reckon we're going to have to set up a separate meeting to take stock of things, because we don't really have time today, okay?
What, Alice?
Yeah, Dave. A meeting to take stock, maybe with some of your key team members. What about tomorrow morning at 8:30?
What? Oh, yes, okay, 8:30.
So that's all clear then. Great. So what do you say if we break for lunch? I just got off the plane this morning and I didn't have time to grab breakfast. I'm starving. Shall we meet back at 2?
2?
Yes, okay, 2.
Great. Well, bon appetit, as you guys say.
David, what the hell is tweaking?
I don't know, Serge. All I know is that I've just agreed to a meeting tomorrow morning at 8:30 to talk about stacks or stocks.
Track 21.
Okay, guys, your financial reporting system looks to be in good shape, but we're going to have to make a few changes in terms of when you do things and how often, to bring things into line with US procedures. Do some tweaking on the reporting period side and...
Sorry, Alice. I'm not sure I follow you. Could you be more specific?
Sure, Serge. What I mean is that we need to standardize the procedures. Make the procedures the same as our US ones.
So what you're saying is that we're going to have to produce financial statements more often, is that right?
You got it, Serge. To be precise, every month.
Well, that's going to mean a lot of extra work, Alice.
Well, you're right up to a point, but the benefits are worth it. Anyway, we'll look at ways we can allocate more resources to set up the new system later on, okay?
Okay, Alice.
Now, we need to iron out some issues on the IT side too, David. But I reckon we're going to have to set up a separate meeting to take stock of things, because we don't really have time today, okay?
Sorry, Alice, you've lost me. We need to do what?
Well, in other words, we need to deal with some IT problems. And to do that, first we need to take stock, see where we are at the moment. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, that's clear now. I could set up a meeting tomorrow morning at 8:30 if that suits you.
Okay, that's great. So, can we go over what we've decided? We're going to standardize the financial reporting, and David and I will meet tomorrow to discuss the IT problems. Does everyone agree with that?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't have time to grab breakfast this morning, and I'm starving. Very hungry. So, what do you say if we go eat?
Good idea, Alice. Just thinking about monthly reporting has made me hungry.
Let's go.
Track 22. Okay, Francois. Thanks for those statistics on late payers. I can see why management want us to cut late payment time by at least 15 working days. Any ideas on how to do it? Alice?
Well, it's pretty clear to me, Enzo. We have to put more pressure on the slow payers, much sooner than we do at present. I think Francois will back me on that.
Absolutely, Alice. In my opinion, we need to do two things. We need to reword our standard chasing emails to make them sound more threatening and...
Threatening, Francois? I don't really want chasing emails sounding like that.
Okay, let's say more assertive or persuasive. Anyway, they've got to show the customer that we require prompt payment. And the second thing is, we need to send the first reminder out earlier.
Right. So that's make the chasing email more assertive and send the first reminder out more quickly. Francois, could you look after redrafting the standard email? And Alice, perhaps you could review the current schedule of when we send each chasing email and see how we can reduce the whole timescale. Can you both report back at our next meeting in 2 weeks?
Fine, yeah. Okay.
Track 23.
So, to put it briefly, covering for absent colleagues instead of just leaving their work until they get back is not just a question of efficiency. It will also improve the department's image both inside the company and with our customers and suppliers. Of course, it will mean slightly more work at certain times, but I'm convinced the effort will be worth it.
I see your point, Dylan, but I'm not sure that the end of the year is the best time to run a major project like this. Staff will need training to be able to do their colleagues' work, and you know that the end of the year is always our busiest moment.
Alice is right, Dylan. Why don't we give ourselves more time on this point?
Oh, I'm quite happy to have more time. If you like, I'll draw up a training schedule for February next year and show it to you at our first meeting in January. How's that?
Sounds great, Dylan. We'll look forward to hearing your conclusions in the new year. Track 24.
Let me see, what else? Electricity saving measures, toner and ink cartridge recycling, reductions in the use of paper, a proper sorting of waste into plastics, paper, and I think that's about it.
Well, I think this brainstorming session has been very useful. It's certainly thrown up a whole lot of good ideas. But I get the feeling that we need some outside help on this if we really want a lasting reduction in waste.
You're right, Enzo. We should get in touch with an environmental consultant or something for some basic advice.
Fine. Well, I'll deal with that if you like. I don't think I'll be ready in 2 weeks, so I'll come back to you on it in October. Okay? Track 25.
Hello, accounts.
Oh, hello. Is that Nina Kovar?
Speaking.
Good morning, Nina. This is Emily Wyatt from Carglazer in Prague. Robert Smid asked me to call you. It's about an outstanding bill from July.
Yes, well, in fact, can I put you through to Mr. Myler? I think he'd like to talk to you about this himself.
Well, yes, of course.
Myler speaking.
Good morning, Mr. Myler. Emily Wyatt from Carglazer. I was calling about the outstanding...
Yes, I know why you're calling, Miss Wyatt. Look, I'm sorry to sound so rude, but this whole matter has made me rather angry. It's that sales manager of yours, Philip Novak.
Philip Novak, our sales manager for the East. I'm sorry, Mr. Myler. I'm not sure I follow you.
Yes, well, let me explain. He brought his BMW into the garage to be...
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Myler. You said his BMW?
That's right.
But our sales managers drive company Volkswagens.
Well, that explains a lot. Anyway, he brought the car in to be repaired at the beginning of July. He'd had an accident, and we had to do a lot of work on it. He told us you knew all about it, and that Carglazer would pay the bill. Here in Brno, we trust people. We simply sent you the bill with our normal July claim, for about 81,000 koruna, I believe, and thought no more of it. But we still haven't been paid the 378,000 koruna for the work we did on his car. And that's why we haven't paid you. It seemed like the only way of being paid what your Mr. Novak owes us. I've been trying to call him for the last 3 weeks, but had no luck.
Well, I see what you mean, Mr. Myler, and I can understand why you're annoyed. I'll need to talk to my boss, jourdUN NGHE, about this, but I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I think Philip Novak owes everybody an explanation.
Track 26.
Well, that was our friend Philip Novak. He's just landed us the biggest deal we've ever made. We're going to be the preferred glass replacement company for the #1 insurance company in the Czech Republic. So, where do we go from here?
Track 27.
Oh, yes, hello. This is Margaret from Cheltenham. I'm phoning to comment on the article Why Fair Trade is a Bad Deal, which appeared on your website. I just wanted to say that fair trade supporters are not as misguided as the article suggests. It's rather surprising that the writer himself has forgotten to mention that free trade and globalization are all about the survival of the fittest. Free trade is a jungle. It may be true that big producers who sell to Starbucks and Cafe Nero can improve their productivity and command higher prices, but what happens to the small farmers? They're forced out of business altogether. Fair trade may never make small coffee farmers rich, but at least it lets small farmers make a living. And, on a larger scale, free trade is dangerous because it encourages unbalanced economies. Take Mr. Singleton's example of Mexico. With free trade, Mexico might decide to stop growing coffee, corn, or rice. All their farmers would only grow chili peppers because it's more profitable, and they would make enough profit to be able to import everything else. But what would happen if the world market for chili suddenly collapsed? With fair trade, you spread the risk, and you give everybody a chance to make a decent living.
Track 28. Speaker 1.
Well, talking about unethical behaviour, does the name Victor Lustig ring any bells? He was the man who sold the Eiffel Tower twice.
Speaker 2.
You must know the story about the American CEO who sold her company shares only days before the share price crashed. She said it was an unfortunate coincidence. Like hell it was.
Speaker 3.
Paying government officials to avoid red tape is well known, but did you know that music companies have been paying radio DJs to play their music since the 1950s? Might explain why some #1 records are so bad.
Speaker 4.
Did you hear about the mayor of that small town in Italy? He used his position and influence to get local contractors to build him this enormous castle in the mountains. For nothing. Incredible.
Speaker 5.
And there was this Korean scientist, a top researcher, a really famous guy. Anyway, it turned out that he'd been using government research funds to pay for luxury hotels, restaurants, and even a round-the-world cruise for his wife. Nice work if you can get it, I say.
Speaker 6.
A couple of years ago, there was an HR director who managed to hire and promote several of her brothers and sisters to important positions in the same multinational. Keeping it in the family, eh?
Speaker 7.
I heard about these marketing executives who were so desperate to succeed, they planted bombs in their competitors' factories. Fortunately, they were caught before they went off. Otherwise, I suppose they would have what you'd call a booming market.
Speaker 8.
Of course, everybody's heard about the offshore banks which process large cash transactions for drug dealers. I just don't understand why governments seem to wash their hands of the matter.
Track 29.
Right, Eddie, if you go through the main issues in this outsourcing agreement, then I'll get Jan to draft the guidelines tomorrow morning, okay?
Sounds good to me, Oksana. It's a question of giving ourselves the right image. Basically, we can't afford the sort of bad publicity we had last year when the media suggested our suppliers were treating staff badly. We need to look at everything to do with working conditions, minimum age, working hours, safety, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, well, let's start with minimum age. I guess that'll be the usual over 15 the day they joined the company.
Yeah, nobody under 16, and I mean nobody.
Okay, agreed.
Regarding working hours, our suppliers need some flexibility, but we need to stick to a maximum of 12 hours in any one shift, and at least a half-hour break every 4 hours.
Okay, so that's no more than 12 hours at a stretch, and a half-hour break every 4 hours. Now, what about safety?
Well, in fact, I'm going to have to get back to you on that, because I don't have details of all the machines they use. But basically, it's a question of ensuring that all the machines have the necessary guards and that the operators use them. The other thing is that they must give all employees protective gloves, of course, that sort of thing. Still, you can ask Jan to draft the basic clause, and I'll get back to you with the details.
Great. Now, let's see. Accommodation? Company dormitories and so on?
Well, things are generally improving. They're beginning to see that if you treat people like rabbits, they work like them.
Oh.
But anyway, I reckon we should insist on a minimum personal space of 6 square meters.
Track 30.
I'm sorry, Alfredo, but we can't go as high as $160. Our normal fair trade premium for top-grade cocoa beans is world market price plus $140 per ton. I can't go higher than $150.
We want $160.
Yes, I know that, Alfredo, but as I just told you, it's not possible. What about pre-financing?
We want advance payments of up to 60% of the value of the contract.
Well, okay, but 60% is only possible if at least half of the crop is grown under shade trees.
No, shade trees mean extra cost. And you already want to increase our costs by refusing to let children under 15 help their parents on the farms. I can't agree to that.
Alfredo, you know very well that child labor is totally unacceptable.
Well, our children always help on the farms, and we can't afford shade trees. If you're not prepared to negotiate a premium, I don't think you have any right to criticize our culture.
Look, Alfredo, I'm not forget it.
Track 31.
I'm sorry, Alfredo, but we can't go as high as $160. Our normal fair trade premium for top-grade cocoa beans is world market price plus $140 per ton. But look, I know how important this is to your cooperative. Assuming we can reach a compromise on the question of pre-financing, I'm prepared to meet you halfway, $150. Is that acceptable?
All right. That seems fair.
Good. So, what about pre-financing?
We would like to be able to ask for advance payments of up to 60% of the value of the contract.
Well, okay. We are willing to agree to 60%, provided that at least half of the crop is grown under shade trees.
Leah, as you know, shade trees mean extra cost. I'd be reluctant to make that sort of commitment, unless you can review your position on children under 15. You see, it's a tradition in our country that children help their parents on the farms.
Alfredo, I think we'll have to agree to disagree on that. Child labor is something that fair trade customers feel very strongly about.
All right, I understand that. So at least half the crop under shade trees and up to 60% of payment in advance.
Okay, and no more children working on the farms?
All right, I can live with that.
Track 32.
Fabio, for God's sake, stop talking about Gordon Hills as if he was some kind of saint. Gordon always said this. Gordon always did that.
Listen, Magda, Gordon was my father's best friend. He was a good and generous man, and if it wasn't for him, Granos Cabrera wouldn't be where it is today.
A good and generous man? Don't be ridiculous. He was just a clever businessman. He knew your father grew good coffee, and he knew he could make a good profit on it. And unlike his daughter, he wasn't worried about details like pesticides or children working on the farms.
Fiona is very fair. She has strong ideas about ecology and human rights, and she wants a fair deal for everyone.
Fabio, get real. She doesn't really care about pesticides or child labor. For her, it's just a good excuse to negotiate even lower prices. She's only interested in the bottom line. Why do you think Green Hills is so profitable?
That's not fair. Green Hills is profitable because Fiona is a good manager.
Well, she's certainly a good negotiator. She always gets the lowest possible prices. She's the reason for all our problems. Green Hills pay us less every year. It's no wonder we're not making any money.
Magda, it's not Fiona's fault. Granos Cabrera's problems are due to world market prices. They keep going down. It's very technical.
Well, I know I'm only from Germany, and we Germans know nothing about the very technical international coffee market. But I do know that if Green Hills paid a fair price, the organic price, the farmers would be able to send their kids to school instead of sending them out to work.
Well, sure, fair trade is the future. That and going organic probably would be the solution to our problems. But Magda, we can't afford fair trade certification. It's just too expensive.
Well then, the solution is very simple. Green Hills should pay for fair trade certification and lend us some money to invest in new equipment to go organic. It's in everybody's interests.
I don't know. It's very difficult. If Dad was still alive, he'd just have a friendly chat with Gordon and everything would be okay.
Yeah, well, he's not, is he? He's dead and gone, and so is Gordon Hills. So you'd better start getting tough with Fiona, or she'll eat you alive.